Okay, we are back, fully dry. It's been over the weekend due to work commitments, but it also gave me a time to think about this. I'm thinking, this is fine, I like this. See, they're fine where they are. I'll add a touch more white to that. In fact, we'll do that as we're discussing what I'm thinking about down there. So let's just give that moon a touch more white so it can be a little bit more vibrant. Pop that over there for a second. And I will tell you what I was thinking about the building. I was thinking over the weekend about changing that again. Because as I kept looking at it over the weekend, I was thinking, is that just too blue now? And I can't believe I'm saying that, but you know, you've got to look at these things subjectively at times. And I think it needs to be, perhaps, like I say, after looking at it, perhaps it needs to be just the sort of grey-blue that it was before. So I'm thinking I've got time to decide while I do this, whiten this moon up a touch more. Like that. That's fine. I'm thinking, let's turn this around again, that we're going to repaint this again in the grey blue that it was, because I think that was fine enough. I mean, it looks nice, but like I say, it just also looks too blue. It looks like it's a blue building in the dark. So, I mean, looking at it in real life, I think it looks too blue. Looking up at the camera, recording it, it looks fine. But this needs to look fine in real life as well, because it's going up in someone's house after all. And I have to be 100% happy with this before I pass it off, before I commit to it being finished. Even though I know it's not, I've got to do the cats, but I have to make this decision before I paint the cats in, before I do the delightful midge and bean. So, moon's fine. Moon will be fine when colour's added to it. Cat shapes, cat silhouettes as they are at the moment, they are fine. I don't need to do anything to them. It's just this building. Like I say, I'm looking up at it. Oh, I'm looking up there at the camera where it is. And on the little screen up there, it looks good. Here's where I'm torn. See, at the moment, if I paint the cats on top of this, they're going to stand out, which is what we want. They are the centrepiece, a bit like the moon's a second centrepiece, but the cats are, they are the object here, really. This is all background. If I do this grey-blue with the colours of midge and bean on top of that, bean's slightly darker, so he's not, you know, he's still going to be very prominent. Midge is slightly lighter. Are the colours of midge going to be too close to the grey blue? Like I say, it's a tiny hint of blue, so we say grey with tiny hint of blue. Are those colours going to be too close to the some of the sandy colours that come out in midge? Because at the moment, the colours of the cats are definitely going to come out, going to stand out fine against this. But it's, let me just turn it around because I don't want to try not to tamper with too much with the camera's issues with focusing. So I'm getting to that point where I've got to commit. Because once I've painted these, and they are the final bits to be done, that's going to take no time at all. This is going to take focus. But once they're done, this has to stay as it is. Because the fuzz of their tails is going to overhang slightly with these silhouettes. So if I suddenly decide that I'm going to change the back here, it's going to interfere with the finishing effect. It'll look like this is potentially ahead of this, and this needs to be the last thing, as the things that are most in the forefront. If you imagine it, like these, obviously with the tails hanging there, and then it would be this, and then potentially the tree, and then the bushes for sure, and then the sky, then the moon. So I've got to decide. Now, I was committed up until this point of just doing this, but like I say, I have to think about how these are going to stand out to whatever colour I make this. And I don't know if I'm just swayed because there's a slight stripe to this, but then it does add to the effect of night. Is it just because this is too dark, but then the whole image is dark? I have to decide one way or the other. And I was going to work on the moon next, but if I decide to leave this, I'm going to crack on with the cats now and start to get Bean and Midge's colours prepared. So I have to decide. See, each time I look up the camera, this looks like a near completed piece. I look down at this and there's just something about it that I'm not 100%. I don't want to add any more blue to it. I don't want to add black and dirty it up. But if I make this flat, this is going to be taken from the cats. At the moment, this is part of the background as it is. So let's have a thinking moment. Cup of tea that I need to finish. So cup of teas, they can help you think. Let's get a look at Bean and Midge. Where's my images? My reference material, no, they're my girls. Here we are. See, he's got a bit of white coming around his lower back leg there. Quite a bit of white. And around here somewhere. Pretty much fizzles into a meeting around here and then fizzles out to white again. So we might take this opportunity just to white these up a bit more, especially since Midge here's got quite a bit of pure white on him. Bean has got, let me just check Bean thoroughly. Little kitty cat Bean has got little to no white on him. He's a little pale under the chin, which is the only bit we would see. So I think that buys us a little bit more thinking time. We're going to white them up with a bit more certainty. So let's get this brush. This can buy us a little bit more time to think about what we want to do. With regards to that, I'll call it shed, because I keep wanting to call it a shed. As I'm painting these white, I am once again swaying back. We don't need to whiten the well, we'll take the tail in a little bit just to keep everything, otherwise this will be much more vivid. His body will be more vivid than his tail. Bit of white running down that tail just to keep him all as he should be. I think, see, the more I do this, the more I'm thinking, right, we're just going to leave it. Because this is essentially the money maker here, the cats. They are the stars of the show, and if I do too much to the building will risk becoming part of the star of the show as well, and we don't need that. I need some more white, however. I'll get that. Get a touch more white. So we've got to really whiten up his bottom region. This is around. Especially around the thigh, and a thin stripe over the tail, the lower rump region. Excuse me. I'm still in the process of half a cold, you know, one of those colds that doesn't quite develop. It just sort of lingers. I know we can always, which we will do, so it'll be part of actually painting the cat, we'll be adding more white to his white bits. We just want to make sure that when we do add them, they can be even more popping. Than they would be if I were to just start painting them now. At least, like I say, this will give us a little bit more time. Sometimes having more time to think doesn't always work in your favour. Like we've said many a times before on this channel, you just got to do sometimes. And I think that's what might come of this. You might get to a point where it's just do. So you can see it. Rather than keep talking about it and not going any further. I'm going to take his because he's got, like I say, he's all round paler than Bean anyway. So we will be a bit more heavy on the white with him. Right. We're going to let that dry while we have a think. Just tuck his neck in. So we're going to take that back again with our nail. Get that crisp line back in. To keep that shape that we're happy with. Right, let's just let them dry again. You can see up there that's looking very white compared to him. Oops, which is good, that's what we want. So yes, we've bought ourselves a little bit more thinking time by needing to whiten up the cats a little bit, especially Midge. So let's cover this back up for a moment. We're going to be using this palette again for the cats and for the moon. So let's pop that over there for the time being. Okay, so we're going to let them dry. They won't take too long, so we will be revisiting this today. Even if we don't fully commit to the cats, we're still going to be revisiting it to get that moon in place. And we'll decide what's happening down here, because one way or the other, either the cats are getting started today or the building is getting touched up today. So this is definitely going to be coming back to today. So let's let that dry. Shan't take too long because we're just going to touch that when we come back, because the more bits we do, so we ain't going to be touching up here once that moon's done. We're all going to be working down here one way or the other after that point. So since that's very thin, perhaps about half hour to hour for me. Probably give it an hour to be sure, because we're going to be applying colour to the top of that and we don't want it to go all pastely and start pulling the white back up. So we'll say at very least an hour. We'll come back. But it's looking cool as it is. It's an interesting piece. If I could make those just pure flat white, it would be a very interesting piece as it is, but it wouldn't be personalised. So obviously I'm not leaving it like that. This is someone's, they have their image in mind, so I have to get it right for them. So yeah, back again, well, in a moment for you, in about, well, at very least an hour for me. And then there'll be a little bit after that, because these are definitely going to take long to dry, and we're going to need those to be fully dry before we start putting their cat colours on top. So yeah, back in a moment. Okay, we are back. And the moon is dry enough to work on. The cats we're going to let dry just a touch bit longer. So let's flip this round. We have got... uncover the corner of this, so we don't know the whites. We've got some pearl gold, which we'll put there. Get it to come out. Oh, a bit more generous than I like. And some pearl whites. That we can be a little bit more generous with. So first of all, let's bring this pearl white in a touch. I think that is nice. We don't want the moon to be golden, we don't want it to be white either, we want it to be a happy middle. I think that is lovely. So I'm going to get the first layer of the moon in place while those cats are still drying. Make sure that brush is aptly dry as well to work with. Yeah. Right, let's start to colour the moon. This is going to take a few layers, and we might make it a touch more gold. After this, we'll see how this looks. But with all this, it's all about building the layers up. Trying to keep it as smooth as possible. Haze out a little bit around the edge now that we've got the circle where we want it. So as we build up the layers, that's when we'll accentuate the moon that tiny bit more, like as a body itself, and leave the haze where it is. that is looking, oops, where we want it at the moment. A bit of haze going on. So when we add the next layer, push that out a little bit. It's not so defined. When we add the next layer, we'll be defining a little bit more in the centre as we're going. Might even swap brushes because this one's slightly angled. So it's okay for now. We need to come a tiny bit more up that corner there. More like that. As we're bringing it in and bolder, we don't mind if a line appears around, perhaps around there somewhere. About 5 million. Right, as a starting point, that is looking nice and spherical, circular, depending if you want to visualise it 3-dimensionally, 2-dimensionally. So, that's all we can do with that bit for this little piece. This is going to be a pause again. Let that dry. Put this over there for now. This cling film, it's not a very good thing for sticking to plastic. It tends to just want to peel back off itself. We want it to keep that paint for us. There we go. So yeah, we're going to let that dry and then come back to it in a moment. Get another layer on. If I remember right, with the Starry Night Sky, I think the moon took 3-4 layers to get it to the point where we really wanted it. So that's alright, that'll give us lots of time to think about what we're going to do. Well, we know what we're going to do with the cats. It'll give us time to think about what we're going to do with this. Though I don't want to waste too much time. See, now I'm swaying more to leaving it where it is, because it's looking like it should. And I think when the cats are in place, I'm going to be happy with everything. I just have to trust myself with my decisions as I'm going. So, yeah, I'm going to pause. Let that dry, come back, another layer on the moon, and it'll be like that pretty much all of today. We might be starting the cats today, we might just be working on the moon at this rate. We'll see. Either way, the cats are definitely beginning, if not today, tomorrow at the latest. Because once they're done, we may do a little shimmery tip on some of the leaves where the moon's catching it. We may not, we'll see once the cats are in place, see what we're happy with. So yeah, pausing again, back in a moment. Okay, we are back. Next layer on the moon. So let's get this. I'll only uncover what we need. We've swapped brushes for our trusty number 6. Let's start building this up a little bit. Well, we'll keep it this pale for the moment, then the next layer we'll add a little bit more gold to the mix. the moment I'm still swaying slightly more towards keeping the building how it is. Only slightly though. We've still got a bit of time to think about that. Flip them around so we can keep this being nice and round. This is definitely a better brush for this job. The other one was far too angular. Topic of canvases, I think I've mentioned it, but in case I haven't, I shall be doing some Picasso themed work soon. Family member saw some of his work, was rather taken by it, and they're redecorating their living room at the moment, so that's gonna be cool to do. I don't mind a bit of cubism. Picasso's arguably the master of cubism. It's very fascinating when you learn, because he had a penchant for, well, a lot of his models were actually prostitutes, and why a lot of his portraits had square lower jaws, but because the prostitutes had masks on to hide the syphilis and the gonorrhea and all the various other things that they had. So it's quite fascinating. Same for it was of that period where it's an old term, it's like loose hair, loose women. So up to a certain point, if you had portraits of a lady and her hair was down, she was pretty much guaranteed to be a prostitute. And if she had it tied back, she'd be considered, well, she most likely was a lady. So interesting. Right, the moon already looks amazing. Is a nice glow to the moon. So when that's dry, the next layer will add a little bit more gold to it to make it a little bit more bold, but we'll also bring it in a touch, so we'll make it ever so slightly smaller. But that is looking good. And like I say, at the moment I'm swaying to keeping this as it is, because I think it's going to look just right with the cats being nice and bold in the forefront there. So that is literally that little clip. We've got to let that dry before we can do anything else. I could start on the cats now, but I'm going to get the moon finished first, and then that'll just give me a little bit more time to think about what's going on down here. Now, like I said before, sometimes thinking is delaying and doing is succeeding. So we'll see. Perhaps when I put the next layer of like slightly more gold white up there, we'll probably start the cats, because otherwise the more time I have to think about this, the more hesitant I'll be as to what to actually do with it. So I think we're just going to press forward, get this image complete, and then get it to its home. So yeah, that's that little clip for now. Give that about an hour. And then, yeah, crack on. So an hour for me, a few seconds for you. Short and sweet bursts at the moment. But once we crack on with the cats, that's going to be slightly longer. Well, it's going to be much longer. So there will be a little bit of drying time in between. Depends how we're going to build them up. Though they're not going to be watery like this, so there might not be drying time in between. They'll probably just be a long shoot. So yeah, back in a moment.